What's the weirdest job you ever had to start?
Oh, the worst
Not
job.
weirdest. What's your worst job? I think you used to be a drug dealer too.
No.
No?
I never sold drugs, but I
Never
did,
just
I was
bought
like
liquor
a
stores?
The middleman.
I was. Yeah,
He was
no,
a
I was
mule.
the customer. There was. When I was in high school, my friend's dad owned a security company that did all the concerts in Colorado, like at Red Rocks. And so all my hockey friends, we would all work for this security company, and basically we would just run the parking. And so we would just have to sit outside for 10 hours a day and just do parking. And one time I did an Obama event, and then I was in charge of the where the White House staff would park for whatever reason. And they would come in, I'd be like, they're like, yeah, I'm with the event. I'm like, all right, good enough. And I was just letting everyone in. And I was like, dude, if Obama goes down, it's there was one guy that came in, had a full arm sleeve, and he was literally looked like Jason Statham. And he's like, yeah, I'm with the event staff. I'm like, do you have an ID? He's like, no. I'm like, whatever, bro. Just go. But dude, and then
Only the fucking president.
yeah, but we used to, since it was at Red Rocks, we used to just wear our uniforms to Red Rocks, and then we would just go in the event because they would just overstaff these things like crazy with you're literally, when you do these security things, you're like a living cone. You wear a brightly colored vest, and you kind of just fucking stand there, and that alone controls people because they don't want to act crazy around people that are just dressed appropriately.
Yeah.
So they would just overstaff it like crazy. So we would just show up dressed as if we were working, and then as soon as we got in the concert, we would just take our clothes off, and we would just go to the concerts for free. And that was the weirdest job I ever had. Yeah, it was fun though.
Are you from Colorado?
Yeah.
Being security would be. I had a buddy who was security at the Spectrum or whatever it was in Worcester.
sure, yeah.
And he was
the
doing
Worcester Spectrum.
He
Yeah.
was doing a My Chemical Romance show or something, and the crowd got fucking crazy because it's a fucking punk rock show, and they all just started rushing the stage, and he's like, I make $15. Go ahead.
Yeah.
I'm gonna fight all you fucking people.
Yeah.
Go ahead, go fucking jump on stage. What the hell do I care?
Yeah.
It's not like when Rolling Stones had fucking Hell's Angels.
The Worcester Spectrum. My first concert was at the Worcester. Remember the Palladium? Was that in Worcester?
It's the same place, right?
It might be the same place. I went to a
Pop.
Papa Roach concert there for
old
my
were you?
first one. Oh, I was young.
This is my last resort.
Just a little fucking. I was like this tall. I was a twig, just getting thrown around.
You think you're the only gay guy to ever go to a Papa Roach concert?
Buddy, I would put money on it. Yeah, I got to talk to Westy. See if we can line. No, I didn't.
It was the mosh pit when you found out you were
Yeah.
gay. You're like, I'm getting hard.
Cheers.
I get this picture you just
Suffocation, no breathing.
Yeah. It's like, this will fucking get it out of me.
this
It was
speaks
wild.
to me.
It was wild. That was good. What else? What was my first job? My craziest job. I drove a Zamboni, obviously, but
What's a Zamboni?
It's the thing I showed you.
Cleans the ice
Yeah.
in a hockey
It's
game.
the thing that cleans the ice.
Oh, yeah. That's lit.
That was fun. That was
That's
good.
lit.
I also
You ever
worked.
crash it drunk?
I would drive that thing so drunk.
Dude, I feel like there's
All
never
the
been...
time.
The amount of people who've driven a Zamboni sober is pretty
We
minimal.
would go because it would be like old man hockey at the end of the night. And
Why?
we'd
Because you
always
just wait? Because you're just waiting the whole game to.
because the last hours of the night, the last sheet, a little hockey term for you, the last sheet, you'll just drink with the old men, and I just give them an extra half hour of me to go get banged up, and then you hop on, you're like, ka-kong, ka-kong, the whole thing as you go around.
You know what I always thought was super weird when you're at a hockey game, like an NHL game, and they're you can win the opportunity to ride on the Zamboni.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that would be the most uncomfortable thing of
Yeah.
all time.
I was actually arguing about this.
It's literally a
You're just sitting there.
It's fun for 30 seconds.
Yeah, and then you're just sitting there while thousands of people are just watching you sit on the Zamboni.
I do it in front of the high school games a year after I graduated. So everyone would see me it was brutal.
We had one guy at the Rankin Fall River who just regularly crashed it drunk. It was just it was part of practice. You knew practice was going to be delayed 10 minutes because Timmy was going to crash it into the boards, and then we're going to have to fix some shit.
We used to tie a rope on the vertical auger. We'd tie a rope and we put the rope down back, going off the back, and we just go out and just whip donuts. My buddies would go out there in their shoes. It would be like wakeboarding on the ice. No rules. It was an absolute blast.
That's incredibly
yeah.
dangerous.
It's very
fun.
dangerous. I mean, but you drive that drunk.
It's like something David Dobrik would do.
Yeah.
Don't
Kill his
compare me to
friend.
David Dobrik.
Yeah. The originals.
What was your first job, Sass?
My first job,
Probably this one.
No, my first job, I did a landscaping thing with my friends for one summer. We actually made like a fuck ton of money because I like promoted the fuck out of it. And then I worked at a restaurant, which was terrible. That was definitely my worst job. And then I worked at a pizza place, which was awesome, but I got fired from there.
Why?
Because it was like the whole
Attitude.
the whole it was like the whole team like plotted against me basically. I was like, yeah. This one kid I worked with
oh, fuck this hairy dude.
You were too famous. So
No, I wasn't then. I was like a junior in high school, and I was like it was like my summer going into senior year, and I started working there in the summer, and then basically like I played on the golf team, which was in the fall, and I was like, hey, like I'm gonna have golf like every day. And then basically they started just putting me on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So I was like, all right, like this sucks a lot.
I feel like pizza places are like that because my buddy in high school worked at a pizza place, and at a certain point he's like, dude, it's like they're just like kind of pushing me out. Like I feel like pizza places get cliquey like that.
Oh yeah, no, the people were all like, they weren't even that bad, but it was like the one kid that I would work with, like it was like the two people would man the pizza station, then they also did like subs and stuff. And the one kid I worked with would like come to work like blackout drunk, and then like the delivery driver was like on pills and shit, and it was like the whole thing was like fucked.
There's
And-
nothing more fun than working in like a service industry because everyone's
Yeah.
fucking-
Yeah.
It's just a contest of like who can come to work today the most fucked up.
Yeah, and I remember being there, and I'm like 16, and I'm like the guy I'm working with is hammered. The delivery dude is like literally like passed out in the basement, and somehow the owner's there like yelling at me, and I'm like, what the fuck is going? I'm like, what could I possibly be doing that's that bad? And then basically I like lied, and I was like, hey, like I'm going to visit my sister at college this weekend. I can't come in, and I like talked to the kid I worked with because he was at the store that day. I texted him. I was like, and he was like, all right, I talked to the manager. She said you're all good for the weekend. Like we got you covered. And then I call on Sunday. I'm like, hey, I just wanted to get the schedule for this week. And she's like, oh no, you don't work here anymore. And I was like, what? And she was like, you didn't show up for your shifts this weekend. And I was like, well, I talked to blah, 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 and he told me that he talked to you. And she was like, is he your boss? And I was like, what the fuck? I'm like, I've been working here for like 2 months. Like, I don't fucking know.
So you got
Some guy
double
just
crossed.
fucked you over.
Yeah.
What a
Yeah.
scumbag.
Dude,
But they were like best buddies, so it was definitely like a planned thing.
I remember when I worked at the pizza place and like the guy was so fucked up that at one point he was cutting in the back, he was cutting like pepperoni or some shit, and he just fucking cut the tip of his finger off, right off, and didn't stop. Like he was just like kept cutting. And I was like, bro, like your finger's gone.
Yeah.
Like the top of your finger's gone. And he's like, what are you talking about? And I was like, bro, look at what you're cutting. There's a fucking finger there. It wasn't a full finger, but it was like, you know, it was more than the nail. And he was like, you're right. And then he just went to the hospital, got it sewn back on, and came right back and went back to cutting. Like, dude missed.
That's the type of guy you want working at your
Like
place.
a hospital player, like
Dedication.
who missed a shift for a few stitches.
Yeah.
Like barely missed anything for cutting off his whole finger. But there was a motherfucker there who did this thing that I want to mention in my obituary that I lived through this. That this fucking kid.
That's dark.
I was like 16. I was like very young too, and I would clean dishes in the back. And me and this other guy who was like an old drunk who had the same job as a 16-year-old.
Yeah, that's always the part that's like, it's always weird.
I'm coming in here as a
Seeing that.
teenager.
They're
You're
so mean to the
50?
kids.
Yeah.
What's up?
That's probably why they're so mean. To
Yeah,
the
it was
kids.
like, look at you, you've already accomplished all I have. But they'd make us a pizza like towards the end of the night. And whenever we got down to the last slice, he'd always throw it away. And he'd just be like, so we don't have to argue about who gets it. I was like, bro, like,
Yeah.
you just get it tonight and I'll get it tomorrow
That's some
night.
shit that like they definitely do, and they think it sounds like very wise.
Yeah.
They're just like, dude, we could just eat the pizza.
Like, bro, I just finished cleaning a pizza cutter. Why don't we just cut it in half?
Yeah.
Like, there's a million other
Yeah.
solutions
Yeah.
other than
Throwing
fucking
it
throw
away.
away
We did it as
pizza.
out of respect.
Yeah. I don't want me and this child to
There's
argue.
one thing I've learned.
Yeah.
Always throw away the
I was a
last
bus boy at this place in my hometown, super fancy place.
Is that
and
a waiter?
It's like basically like you're like the bitch of the waiter.
They like pick up the dishes.
You just pick up the dishes.
Oh,
and
it's
stuff.
the crumb down.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Crumbs out.
And
Crumb
that
de la
was
crumb.
Nah, you know when they come to your restaurant, they come and they.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a crumb boy.
I didn't know you. You're taking the piss, blood.
And I was,
No, he was a
Monster
crumb
Boy
boy.
is actually better, blood.
I was
I like
terrible.
crumb
I was
boys.
You got like
terrible at it.
porters, right?
Yeah, pause.
Yeah,
Yeah.
My first job was working for a retreat for priests. And so, yeah, like all the priests who worked at BC, like all the Jesuits, they were called. Yeah, right?
sure.
You've heard of the Jesuits.
What's
They,
a Jesuit?
they would come down to this, it's a type of priest, a type
yeah.
of Catholic, I don't know.
It's a type of Catholic. Yeah.
They would come
Okay.
down to this like mansion on the coast during the summers, and it was just this like
Getting dark quick.
retreat
Yeah.
they had. No, I wasn't that dark. I didn't get dark. It does get dark.
No,
the
not
Boston
how
Globe
you
was
think.
interviewing me.
So I
Spotlight.
worked in the kitchen, and those guys lived it up. They would just eat these amazing meals. They had like more liquor than you would know what to do with. So that's what they would do. They would come down. They can't like have sex, so they would just chill in this mansion and drink. And
I feel like that's kind of fun. Like if you like, it's like nights where you like you're not fucking, and you're like, well, I don't even need to make sure my dick's here at the end of the night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll just get fucking shit faced.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how drunk a
They're
priest
like,
gets every night.
Relax,
A priest
bro.
gets
when my
girlfriend's on her
when my
period
dick
drunk
works,
every
that's
single night.
how I get in trouble. But so I worked that job in high school, and that's actually how I got most of my booze in high school. I would just steal it from the
church?
giant liquor closet down there.
Steal it
so
from the church. That's
I will
great,
not be
Don.
going to
You're a
Catholic
Roman,
heaven.
You're a runner.
It's all right. I won't even-
It's fucking, it's
I know
booze.
some shit, but I would have run from the church, bro.
Dude, booze is poison. I was trying to save the priest.
It was the
They
blood of
shouldn't be
Christ.
drinking that much. They were drinking far too much, and I had to take a little bit off there.
96% of you motherfuckers watch these videos and aren't subscribed. Shout out to the 4%. You are good people. 4% of people are watching our
That's
clips.
about what the I would guess the breakdown of
Good people versus bad
demographics
people?
in the world.
Yeah.
Good people versus bad people. Probably about 96% to 4.
That's
but Be
fair.
a good person.
But it's not even. I'm not even asking you to be a good person. I'm asking you to push a button.
Yeah, but,
I'm asking you to click a button.
you can be a bad person still, but just click
You
the
could be a
button.
piece of shit. Just click subscribe. 96% of you watch these clips and they're like, oh my God, that was a funny clip from this podcast. I liked it. And I'm just not going to help them out. The people who work to make it, the people who work to produce it, to post it, to upload it, and there's nothing from you. You're a bad person if you don't subscribe.
Be a good one.